One, two, three. Welcome to Mom and Dad Talks, where our favorite two people are Mom and Dad. And right now we have a special edition. We've got Carlin and Alfred today. What's up, CJ?
I am not a crook.
Well, we got a special edition, folks. We got to talk about debates, the Biden and Trump debate, the Bay of Pigs, whatever you want to call it here. It's the best of the worst. So you know what, Carl? I'm just gonna let you roll out. What are your thoughts on this whole interesting thing? And it was, I mean,
the best way I can put it is like this. One time I was in the car with my family. We were at a stoplight. We saw this lady, elderly lady. Not that it matters, but she was coming in the opposite lane towards the intersection. Mm-hmm. And then she swerved. She not fast. She gently swerved into our lane and was coming head on into our track. We had like 3 lanes on our side waiting to go. And I was like, this lady's going to hit somebody head on. Mm. Sure enough, she did. We watched the whole thing and we were like, oh my goodness, this lady just came into the opposite lane and hit somebody head on. We were 1 car back. Mm-hmm. Praise God. Everything went off. The airbags went off. Everything. We jumped out of the car, went to help her. She was incoherent, but she was fine. Mm-hmm. Nobody was killed. Nobody was even injured, right? Mm-hmm. But it was a head-on collision. Why do I say that in response to what you just asked me? I think what we watched in the debate was a head-on collision crash. If that's all I say, you're going, oh my goodness, somebody died. Something blew up. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like Bad Boys, the movie, like head-on collision. There was explosions, blah, blah, blah. It was bad. It was a bad situation. It was not good. There's nothing good I can say about the debate, but nobody got hurt. It's June.
Well,
now wait a second. Now, here's what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we didn't learn anything. So like that accident, I learned that lady didn't need to be behind the wheel anymore. That's what I learned, right? Mm-hmm. So what did I learn from the debate?
Yeah.
I learned that maybe somebody shouldn't be behind the wheel anymore. That's what I came away with. But I don't want to overreact too. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It was one night. It was telling though. It was telling. Mm-hmm. But it isn't telling against everything. You also have to stack up the facts. You have to look at the records. You have to look at what has been done. I would say that one night for me personally, because I can't speak for anybody else, reveals that Joe Biden has probably reached the end of his capabilities. Okay. That's one night tells me. It doesn't erase the things that he's done, both good and bad. Mm-hmm. And it also, if the same applies for him, the same applies for Donald Trump. If you believe that Donald Trump had a good performance, which he didn't, he lied through the whole thing. He ended up arguing about his golf handicap with Joe Biden, right? I mean, it was terrible on both counts. His was more coherent and cognitive than Joe Biden's, but by no means, if anybody else had been on stage, even Mickey Mouse, Donald Trump would have been buried. But it wasn't. So the reality is that he had a better performance than Joe. But that doesn't take away the fact that we're talking about a convicted felon who was up there debating as to whether or not he should be the president of the United States. And I'll just say this just to start things off. You realize that felons can't vote in America? So if the man is running for president, but he can't vote, he can't even vote for himself. We are it's bad for America right now. That's my opening statement.
That's the opening statement. I mean, Biden's 81, President Trump is 78. Got 2 old dudes fighting. I almost said farting. Fighting.
That too.
Oh, Lord have mercy. You got 2 old dudes fighting over who wants to be president, and they aged out of new thinking and taking this country into a better way. Because let's just be realistic. 10 years from now, they don't care what happens to this country. They're not even going to know what happens to this country. I mean, so at the end of the day, why do you want to run except for selfish ambition? Or if you really are trying to make this country better, what are you doing to make it better? And that's the big question. This country's parties have gotten so swung to two, ideologies. Yeah, I mean, where are the people in the middle? I mean, where are the sensible people left? I mean, they've been hijacked. Both parties have been hijacked. I hate to say that, but you have these extremists hijacking these parties, pushing their agendas willy nilly just because they can. And so now it comes to the standpoint of, I got to vote for the one that's going to give America the best chance, not who you sounds good. Because if you look at the track record, okay, Biden's track record is just better than Trump's. In 4 years, he didn't have COVID rip out a whole country when everybody warned him it was coming. Sorry, you can't devoid that, and then you go against the very thing that was supposed to protect you, and you rip it out. That's bad decision making. It should have, President Obama. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you talk. President Obama had two pandemics. And guess what? America never went to that low base. Why? He was smart enough to know the difference of how to use things in the right way. And all I'm saying, folk, is this dude, all he had to do was what President Obama did when they had H1N1. Anybody coming out of this country, you're going to have to be isolated. And if not, you're arrested. Carlin, what are your thoughts?
Well, slightly off topic, but it's actually in my wheelhouse. So I'll do my best to address it briefly because I want to get back to the debate. Okay.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I used to work for a company called Bold Planning.
Mm-hmm.
We did continuity of operations planning, emergency operations planning, in the cloud, through IT. My customers were like the state of Oregon, city of Chicago. I'm talking about like big customers. And we would do exercises and we would put together plans. We would help them work with their resiliency teams to put in plans. I've seen the national pandemic plan.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it before COVID came out in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's team ripped it up and put it in the trash.
Yeah.
Said we didn't need it. That's not conspiracy. That's a fact. And then they bragged about it. Then they cut the funding for the National Pandemic Commission before COVID came up. I'm not going to theorize as to why, because that would be conspiracy. All I'm dealing with is the facts.
Mm-hmm.
The facts are they got rid of the national plan for pandemic. They got rid of the funding for the pandemic commission. Now, you know who didn't do that bad during COVID? The state of Oregon. You know why?
Why?
Because before COVID came out, they paid for a tabletop exercise for all 33 agencies, right? And we conducted it. And you know what the exercise was about? What? Pandemic. Not that they knew what was good. They just went down a list and said, nuclear holocaust, this, zombie apocalypse, pandemic. Let's do that one. And they did. And ironically, they were prepared more than most states for the pandemic because they actually listened to expert advice. When you have an authoritarian in place, that's just it. I'm the authority on everything. Therefore, I know everything. Which brings me back to the debate and where we are as America. It's going to sound cliche, but I believe it to be absolutely true. Again, I'm only speaking for myself. I think the blame goes to longtime politicians. Let me explain why. Politicians had the trust of the United States. We vote for the people we think will speak for us. They abused that power. They got rich on that power. I'm not talking about any one party. I'm talking about Democrat and Republican, right? And they catered to the lobbyists, those who line their pockets, like the NRA, or even on the other side, there are global energy companies that are like, oh, green energy, even when it doesn't make sense in certain instances. And so, on both sides or wherever you are in your beliefs, politicians violated the trust of the United States, and people got sick of it. Before Trump, there was Obama. Think about this. Obama was a junior senator who became a rock star, right? Because people were tired of politics in the same vein. Yeah. So then when it came time, they wanted more of the same. But who were the candidates? You had a lifetime politician in Hillary Clinton, right? Forget all the scandal and everything. She was a lifetime politician. And then you have somebody who had the least experience of any presidential candidate in the history of the modern era. That's not hyperbole. What are you going to say, A. Ross Perot?
Well, hold up. He did know about politics because he paid a lot of those politicians.
No, no, I didn't say he didn't know about politics. I said experience. He had never governed anything. He had never been elected for anything. He hadn't even served as a county commissioner. Nothing. Like this was the least experienced. You can't even call it least experience. He had no experience. He was a billionaire real estate playboy. That's his resume. And why did half of America
With
vote
gold
for him, or less
toilets.
than half? Huh?
With gold toilets.
But I ain't mad at him. If I had a gold toilet, I would. Hey, I ain't mad at him. But the point is this: is that America was sick of politics.
Yes.
So they started a turn, and it started with Obama, who wasn't as experienced as his competitors. Then they said, you know what? That wasn't so bad. He actually did a few good things. This is on both sides. They're saying this. So now you got a candidate that comes up, and he's running against an experienced politician, and you go, I don't want more. I don't want more of that. I want more of the other. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to vote for. Yeah, he has no experience, but he's a businessman. He tells it like it is. Blah 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 blah. Forget
well hold up. He's a bad businessman.
Understood, but the bottom line is that it was different. It was not the same. And had politicians not violated the trust of the U.S. citizens, we would not be here today, because we would not have looked to bring in something outside of the government structure in order to try and right the ship. And they believe lock and stock and barrel. Oh, I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And, the rest is history. But I can't blame people for wanting something different, because what we had become so influenced by special interests, you couldn't trust it.
Which leads us to the next thing here. You got a lot of people out there, this whole thing, we have a great country. Just want to let you know that. I love the United States. I don't hate the United States. So I got no other place to go. People always say, well, Ty, yes, you can critique your country when you feel some things are not right. That gives you the right. It's in the Constitution, right? And the whole point that we have now is we got people who are literally talking out of the side of their neck with half truths, and they're getting more and more popular. They're just telling what people want to hear, and there's no truth in it. And Carlin, what bothers me more is the standpoint of they get a platform. The news media gives them a platform to voice this craziness. And with the sameness that should be going on in our education system, should be going on, and our news media should be going on, the sensibility is being lost in the United States. And that's only from a media, and I'm throwing education in because you got kids that can't read. I mean, how do you go for 12 years in the education system and can't read, and you pass all the grades? At some point, we've lost our soul supporting bad ideas because it lines our friends' pockets up instead of what's best for the people of this country. And that gives me back to the point here. When people look at it, what's the candidate that gives you the best punch for what's going to look out the most for America? All Americans, not just in saying it, just actually, we know the bar is low, but what I'm saying,
what bar? What bar? There's got to be a bar for it to be low.
Yeah, and I know people are like, whatever, but the whole point I'm saying is that, you got to give America a chance. You got to give the candidate who's going to give the best chance. Now, I can't choose which side per se on the show, whatever to vote for here. But my point is, folk, is choose the one that's going to look out for America the most, not for whatever they feel like.
But Todd, you got to be careful. You got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with that, because that has been perverted. That actual statement's been perverted. America first.
Let's go back to,
because when you say you look out for America, look out for America first.
I'm not all Americans, right? All Americans, not for.
I hear you, Todd.
Americans.
I hear you. I heard you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, most people are not going to hear that because we are so segmented. So when I hear it and think about all Americans, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think about, what about black folks? Because we've been excluded for so many things for so many years, and it ain't ancient history, folks. No, and I have to say this as a side note. I was born in 1971. We didn't get all of our rights until 1968. So I wasn't born in America that had all rights for black people until 3 years later than when we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you start going, oh, that was ancient history and before slavery and all that other junk. No, almost in my lifetime. My father served in Korea without the protected right to vote. Let that sink in for a second. Okay, so when I don't blame anybody for looking at that statement and saying, when I want somebody to look out for America first, I put myself to the top of the heap because it's a very personal question. I'm an American, and I look around and I'll go, well, what about this for me? And what about that for me? And so when you get to nationalists, right? Their first thing is, what about me? They're trampling on my rights. They're taking all my jobs. They're turning the schools all gay. They're doing this. They're doing that. And so when you do that, when you put that statement out there, I'm not talking about you. I'm saying, but when we go America first, because see, that's the platform of one of the candidates that was debated.
Carlin, this is the point you're bringing out.
A perverted version of that.
But this is the point you're bringing out. Which Americans are you going first? That's right. The part. That's the part that's the identifying part, right? And you make a great point. When I say all Americans, gay, straight, black, white, they're all a part of this country.
I know what you mean. What I'm saying is that we're picking and choosing so much, and I'm guilty of it as well. That's what I was saying in the beginning. I'm guilty of it. So if I'm guilty of it, you know that the nationalists are guilty of it, right?
The nationalists don't care. The nationalists are at a standpoint
where
we just want to do what we want to and forget America.
That's the point. And so, all right, Todd, so I'm going to beat you to your own punch.
Yeah.
We turn this spiritual. We've completely forgot about Am I My Brother's Keeper. We have completely forgotten about Love Thy Neighbor as Thyself. We have completely forgotten about As You Have Done for the Least of These. I mean, we can go down a list of scriptures, go down the Beatitudes. You know what I mean? You can list a bunch of scripture from the Bible, which we have turned our backs on, right? Yeah, right. So for me,
as Christians, Carlin, but as Christians, this is a Christian show. Forget the secular people. They're secular. I don't expect them to have any value. But when I see Christians behaving worse than secular people, you got to understand, folks, the Holocaust, a lot of those people were Christians.
Proclaimed Christians.
Proclaimed Christians. A lot of those felt that they knew Jesus, but yet you could kill a human being and cut off.
They sang hymns at Klan rallies.
Yeah. So
everybody that cries, "Lord, Lord," isn't going to enter the kingdom of heaven.
So you used God's name in vain as a vanity, because by the vainness of your traditions do you worship Him. Just because you can do it, you're just saying God's with you, and then you get mad when God says enough and He punishes you. Then you want to blame everything else instead of own up to it, like, I should have repented from my sins and come to God. And this is the problem I struggle with, my brothers, is that your agenda is so much that you forget how to love. You don't even know how to love anymore. And nobody knows how to love in this country anymore. It used to be Christians showed that, you love your enemies.
But Todd, what is one of the telltale signs of the last days? The love of many shall wax cold.
Because iniquity shall abound.
Because iniquity shall abound. So that being said, if you watched the debate the other night and did not directly run to Daniel and Revelation and say, what does all this mean? Then it means that you're looking at this completely from a secular view, which is okay. Yeah. Which is okay. I'm not trying to say everybody should look at this, but for Christians, we should be looking at this as spiritualized. So if you've got an agenda that lines up, you think, with one side or the other, and then you're going to Trojan horse that to try and get. God doesn't need a Trojan horse.
No.
I feel like I'm preaching. I can't get an amen from nobody. God doesn't need a Trojan horse. He is out in the open. He said one thing: if I be lifted up from the earth above all men, I will draw all men to me. Are we lifting up Christ? Are we truly lifting up Christ? And I'm not saying that is not the job of the federal government. No, that is not the job of the federal government. That is our job. So if what we're trying to do is trying to merge the two, And if what we're trying to do is the Trojan horse Christianity into a package of politics, then we're not doing what God has told us to do.
But Carlin, it's not even Christianity. It's an agenda.
No, I agree.
See, that's the problem I have with it. It's not even godly. If it were godly, I would have a different thing about it. But this is not even a godly agenda. This is, we want to put slavery. It's just the craziest stuff.
Let me look. Can I give it, because I'm going to open up another can of worms. I know we're running out of time. Okay. State of Oklahoma said they're going to start teaching Bible in school. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you had Louisiana who said we're going to put the 10 Commandments up on the wall. Mm-hmm. By the way, good show on that last week with Mom and Dad. All right. And I called you afterwards because I had to straighten some things out in my own head. Mm-hmm. Now you got Oklahoma taking it a step further. Mm-hmm. We're going to teach Bible in public schools. All right. And that is, to me, Trojan horse and God. Because God doesn't need politics in order to save anybody. Now listen, just let me finish this and I yield the floor. As a Christian, mm-hmm. when you and I are a product of Christian education, mm-hmm. okay? We mm-hmm. both went to SDA education grades 1 through 8. Mm-hmm. We went to
non-denominational.
But it was backed by evangelical church.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I loved my time there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then both of us went on for Seventh-day Adventist education mm-hmm. at the university level. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. We have trained professionals who were Bible teachers. Mm-hmm. Even in the non-denominational world. I'll never forget, Mr. Mallow was mm-hmm. our Bible teacher in high school.
That's
God bless him. That dude was awesome. Mm-hmm. I loved him, right? Learned great things from him. Learned great things from all my Bible teachers all the way through. All right. They are trained. They went to school to teach the Bible. Mm-hmm. So now you want to put it in public schools. Do you trust the teachers who are teaching the Bible? Like, you have to look on the other side of this. Like, is that what you really want? So now you're gonna complain about gay and LGBTQ rights. You're gonna complain about a liberal agenda or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then you're gonna turn around and trust untrained mm-hmm. Teachers to teach your Bible principles, mm-hmm. and then you're gonna get mad when mm-hmm. they just got, because you and I we went to school with a lady, and I'm not gonna embarrass her or anything because she's not embarrassed, mm-hmm. but her son is a gay pastor.
Yeah,
his son is a gay pastor. So if he were teaching in the public school system mm-hmm. and teaching Bible to your children, he's going to be teaching them from his point of view, biblical principles that support, or in his mind, support his lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And then you're gonna complain and be like, oh my goodness, public schools are sending our kids to hell. But you're the one that wanted them to teach the Bible. See, we've got to get past our own agenda, stay mm-hmm. in our lane, mm-hmm. and let God be God instead of mm-hmm. us be God. Mm-hmm. I said too much.
No, you actually said the right point. You can't legislate God, because now what ends up happening is this, right? It gets to a slippery slope. Then it becomes what is truth, just like we have today. What is truth? And we got fact checkers all over the place. Good thing, bad thing, whatever. But people want to do whatever they feel like doing, regardless of what's presented in front of them. And that's the scary part.
Todd, one last thing that I'm going to say here, because you just triggered me. Okay? All right. As Black people, I know people get tired of that. They're like, "Oh my goodness, everything's black and white or whatever." I can't help. I'm a Black man. I
get treated black when I go to the store. I get treated black when I go for a job interview.
Bring it up. So y'all bring it up when you treat me different.
If you stop doing that to me, this won't be a problem.
It's never a subject. It's never even an issue, right?
But okay. So go ahead. Yeah.
Let me say this. Okay. Being a Black man in America, I know what it's like to not be in control.
Right.
I know what it's like to have to submit to evil authority.
Right.
I know what it's like to have to vote against my own best interest in the interest of just getting a piece of what I want. Mm-hmm. Okay. So mm-hmm. that's where I start. Mm-hmm. So I'm very careful when I'm in a position to try and exercise my own agenda on somebody else. Yeah. Because you have to be able to trust it. So when we get to this thing of states' rights, and we're going to return the decision to the states, there are some states mm-hmm. because of their historic tradition in the United States of America who do not look out for the interest of Black people.
Right.
Period. Look at the ones who are fighting the things that are just basic stuff. teaching history of, of blacks in America. State of Florida, get it out of here. Don't want it. Okay, so if I'm going to put stuff in the back of the state's hands, do I trust them with my well-being? It was the states who fought in the Civil War for their right to keep slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's the states who are now we're going to return stuff back to the states. Do I trust the states? So that's why it was. And I'm not for big government, but it was the federal government that sent the National Guard to escort kids because it was the states that wanted segregation in the schools in Alabama and Mississippi. So you mean to tell me I'm going to turn around and trust the great granddaughter or great grandson of the governor of Alabama to look out for my best interests? I struggle with
what we have now is this with the Constitution didn't really a mob rule. I can rule over because I have more people than you. So the individual rights of the person are now in question, and the soul of America is really at stake here.
And I got off track, and you brought me back on track this time. What you just said. Mm-hmm. So now that the shoe is on the other foot, because I'm going to be very blunt here, and I'll get canceled for this. I don't care. There are more registered Democrats than there are Republicans to vote. Period. Correct. That's a fact. Correct. That's not conspiracy. Mm-hmm. That's a fact by census, which means that if all the Democrats do is just show up and vote, they win. If they show up and vote party line, right? Okay. The Republican strategy is to suppress the vote because they don't have a strategy to get more people to come to the Republican because they tell us we're stupid for voting Democrat. By the way, I'm an independent, so I vote Democrat and Republican, right? But what I'm saying is they tell black people you're stupid for voting Democrat. That doesn't get you more votes. That's just trying to shame them into not voting. That's the strategy. So the Democrats, if you go back and look at the history, like just vote, just show up and vote. They know because if they do that, they win. Okay, so now in 2020, the census has been announcing this for the last 25 years. That in 2020 will be a blacker and browner America. When you combine all the minority groups, they will outnumber so this undercurrent that you feel with immigration and Muslim and black. And all of this and all of this fight, this I've got a clawing, I'm fighting for my virtual life. It is an actual fight, right? Because you now the shoe's going to be on the other foot. So everything that you pressed on as a majority, like this is what you do when you're a majority. You put your own agenda. You don't look out for anybody else, and you don't listen to anybody else. What happens if you're no longer the majority? Now you're scared to death. Because we've already laid the template of they're not going to listen to us. They're not going to look out for us. They're not going to consider us their equal. And there's more of them than us. So now you got this nightmarish anxiety that is happening that makes you go, I don't care that this man is a 34-time convicted felon. I don't care that he owes the state of New York over $500 million because he was found liable for lying on his taxes. I don't care that he was found liable for sexual assault and has to pay a woman $9 million nearly 40 years later. I don't care that he's got 3,500 bankruptcy pending cases that, of people that he did not pay for filing bankruptcy 6 times. I don't care that he was, outlawed in the United States for even running his own business for the next 2 years in the state of New York. That's why he changed residences to Florida, not because he wanted to leave New York. He can't run his own business in New York anymore for 2 years, but he wants to run the country. So why would you go for a person like that? Because he will fight for your interests, which have now been flip-flopped. So what we saw in the debate the other night was what I'm calling capabilities versus character. I'm sorry. Again, I'm going to get canceled for this. Biden might be the least capable president in the modern history at where he stands today. I'm not saying that when he started this. Where he stands today, I have no confidence based on what I saw in the debate that this man is capable of leading the free world. It isn't just the United States. It's the free world and their allies. I have no confidence. So that's capability versus character. You have a convicted felon who can't even vote, but yet wants you to vote for him. And the two of them are arguing about who's got the best golf handicap. I feel like we can do better.
It's almost like, was it Digital Underground? Just grab him in the biscuits, baby. That's when I see my former president, and it's just the character flaws there. And then you got Christians backing him up just because he wants their vote and their agenda, and he's willing to do anything to do it. It's almost horish the way the country is going, where they'll do anything to get a vote, which is scary. What is your agenda? What is your plan to put America on a firmer standing? What's the plan of getting the schools back in order? Where's the plan?
But Todd, here's the thing: did we hear that from either of them? I didn't hear it from Biden. You know what I'm saying? I definitely didn't hear it from Trump. All I kept hearing was every answer to every question is we've got migrants pouring over the border and blah 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 blah. Like, what about January 6th? We got migrants over the border, blah 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 blah. Okay, what about the public school problem? We got migrants over the border. And here's the thing: we do have migrants pouring into the border, but we got more issues than that. Mm-hmm. We got more issues than just that. So if that's your answer for everything, dude, you're not capable either. But he's more capable than Joe Biden. I think that's clear. Well, the question is, do we pick a president who's showing that he may not be capable of running the country, or do we pick a president who lacks absolutely no character whatsoever to run the country? That's your choice right now.
Well, yeah, I think we went way over mom and dad.
Sorry.
No. I think it's a great conversation, and I think hopefully we have some intellectuals out there, because people are so polarized in today's society. You say a name or a phrase, no matter what you said, that there's no reasoning. It's like they're all in attack mode. They want to beat you up and not have an understanding of what's going on there, and it's on both sides. It's gotten to the point now where we got to be America again. And we got to come together and not fight one another, not hate one another, because that's really what it's turning into. Hate groups and mobs are starting to take hold of America, and that's not healthy for America. It actually divides this country up, and we had a civil war because of strong hate, and for this very issues that we're talking about here. That you got guys out there that just want to run amok over America because of how they feel, not what's best for America. I'm looking out for everybody. Okay. We have strong Christian values. Okay. That's why when people talk to us, why are you, I'm not really a Democrat. I'm not really.
Well, we have strong Christian opinions.
Yeah. Let's put it like that. Yeah. Strong Christian opinions. But
even using the word values can be exclusive to some group. Cause like, I'm gonna tell you, I'm friends with guys who are Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. There's sometimes where I feel like they got more values than we do.
Well, at the end of the day,
but if I keep that out of the conversation and say I have strong opinions about what America should be, we can agree. We can find somewhere to have it. Because when I start comparing values, they come to me and be like, "Oh, well, you don't treat your women the way that you do, or you don't, blah blah blah." And we're going to have some inconsistencies because the Christian nation, the kingdom of God, right now is in disarray. We don't
practice biblical teachings.
We don't practice them.
Yeah. And that's the real scary part. We have people calling themselves Christians, don't even go to church. All right, with that so
it's a good way to end. It's a good point to end on.
Yeah. Great point to end on. So folks, today, practice what you preach. Let's just go old school. If that's what you say you are, then demonstrate that's who you are in all facets of your life, not just parts of what you want people to see, even at home in private, even when you go out to work, even when you make decisions. Practice what you preach. I'm okay with that. The problem I have is the lukewarm folk. They want to sometimes do it and sometimes don't. Those are the ones you got to watch, because they're always sometimesy. All right. God says you want you hot or cold. Lukewarm, he'll spill you out of your mouth. With that, we'll leave you on Mom and Dad Talks, and thank you again for joining us. And if we get canceled, just hang in there. We'll do some stuff you like. All right. Have a good one, and bye.